Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a beautiful 14th of May, 2024. Come at the this episode of the Crusty podcast, episode 280, Anger and Word Salads. Yes, some of our politicians giving us more word salads and an in-depth report from the CBC on why Canadians are angry. Oh my, I could take him to dinner and tell him all about how angry I am. All that more come up in the show, ladies and gentlemen. Please stick around. Listener view discussion is advised because I will swear and I will smoke cigarettes. See you in a bit.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me.
Yes, sir.
There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast, a Canadian veteran's point of view on political, social, economic issues, and life. Here's Crusty.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast, episode 280 of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Anger and word salads, brought to us by our politicians and other idiocy. Hello, everybody. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. Hope you all had a great Monday. It's now Tuesday. I'm glad to be here. Just adjusting my microphone and all that good stuff too. I've had some issues with my soundboard, so if something cuts out, just let me know in the comments. However, I've done some playbacks and stuff before. No issues. This podcast is also brought to you in part and supported by the Veterans for Freedom Network. That's right. Veterans for Freedom Stand 2. And coming soon, please pay attention to updates as this comes. Veterans for Freedom Television. That's right. Yours truly and other like-minded veterans will be doing our podcast, hopefully on this network sometime in the future. So please pay attention to that. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. All that and more coming your way. If you like to hear what you see, do not forget to click like and subscribe. Share this podcast all of your social media platforms too. Give me a thumbs up, give me a like, help the Canadian algorithm get out there to Canadians and other like-minded individuals across the globe in fighting for free speech, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have to do it. Anyhow, like a title card said, anger. So there's a little story I'm going to play here from the CBC, from the YouTube page. You know what's funny, though? Every time you watch the CBC news on YouTube or any kind of other video platform that's allowed to under, without Justin's watchful eye, they always turn the comments off, eh? They always seem to turn the comments off. It doesn't matter where, when, how, whatever. Every time they put a story up, comments are off. CPAC channel does that too. I guess they don't want to show a bias or something. But when it comes to CBC or CTV or Global, CBC always turns their comments off on things because I guess they just can't deal with the outrage or the criticism, right? In my last episode, I was talking about how people shouldn't criticize politicians because there's an RCMP officer who wants to make laws against it for you and me to speak our minds and say things, oh my God, we can't have that kind of behavior. Oh shit, what's the world coming to? Oh no. All right. So surely I'm going to play a video on that too. And there's also a couple of vids I have from, one vid from Stephen Gabeau promoting the heat pumps, word salad stuff, and another little blurt from Jagmeet Singh, and an interesting man from I subscribed to his page. Things I think when I'm stoned. He has some great tongue-in-cheek stuff. Highly suggest you subscribe to him on X and listen to what he has to say. His monologues are effing priceless. So I'll play something from him shortly there, ladies and gentlemen. But in the meantime, let's talk about anger. Okay. Let's talk about Canadians and why we're pissed. Okay. Let's talk about Canadians and why we're pissed at the government. Let's talk about Canadians and why we're pissed at the economy and the housing market and the homeless issue and the drugs issues and the immigration issues and all issues galore, especially all the ghost hunters out there that keep saying there's so much racism and so much misogyny and so much sexism everywhere. All the grifters, all the race baiters and everything. I can tell you that I spent a good part of my life being angry at things. Because there were people in my life that I counted on that didn't want to be there. So that's one of my personal anger things. Okay. On a national level, I'm angry because we got a federal government that would praise me 1 minute for being a soldier and then shun me the next for not being a soldier or for being a soldier. I have a government that would sooner see me pay $50,000 to $60,000 in back taxes, even though they knew I was unemployed at one time, okay, and then tell me that I should pay up or else, okay? I'm angry as a Canadian because I gave 20 years of my life to this country. And there's people I served with that aren't here anymore because they laid their asses down for this country. And they were shunned by politicians and shunned by social media and shunned by mainstream media. Okay? That's what pisses me off. I'm pissed off we have a government that does not want to fund the Canadian military properly and adequately. I am pissed off at the Canadian government because they treat seniors like garbage. They have a catch and release system in the name of fairness and equality and DEI, even though certain justices and judges and prosecutors and defense attorneys know that there are people out there that have committed heinous effing crimes, but they let them go anyway because it's trendy. It's the thing to do. Okay. I'm pissed off at the fact that we have to take bits and pieces out of our history because someone might be offended. I'm offended and mad at the fact that we have kids that are 16, 17, 18 years old, and they cannot compile a proper sentence or they cannot read a paragraph, but they get the opportunity to go to university and take all these fancy courses and say they're educated once they graduate. Then they hit the working world and they can't cope working an 8-hour shift. So you can see the spectrum here and what pisses me off. I'm pissed off at the fact we've got a bunch of leaders that sit in fucking Ottawa, okay, and talk goddamn tough and talk fucking mean. And yet the moment you're mean to them, oh, they need the authorities to help them. So you can see why I'm mad, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I'll cue up this video about record levels of anger brought to you by the Polera Society. Okay, so you can tell for yourself how condescending the people at the CBC are and how these individuals that they hire to do these surveys are really the fuck out of touch. And I'll cue this up for you, ladies and gentlemen. And you'll see my point on how ridiculous times are becoming, how times are, how ridiculous times really are in regards to the here and now. Okay, I'll just cue this up for you, and we'll go from there, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
If you're a Canadian parent and you don't have life insurance.
Sorry, wrong ad. Wrong ad, ladies and gentlemen. My apologies. Life insurance. Do you have that life insurance? I have a life insurance. Anyhow, you guys decide. I'm not going to tell you how to suck eggs here, but take what you will from this editorial and just the tone from the broadcaster here, from the journalist, and from the Mr. Analyst who knows exactly what he's talking about.
Canada tonight. If you've been seeing red lately, you're not alone. Polera has released its latest Rage Index survey. The pollster says that it hit a new high in April with record levels of anger among Canadians. Now, the Rage Index measures Canadians' anger or annoyance toward 6 factors: the federal government, their provincial government, the economy, personal financial situations, certain changes happening in Canada, and the latest stories that are in the news. Dan joins us from Ottawa. Dan, good to talk to you.
I'm happy to be here. I'm not angry today. I'm happy to be talking to you.
Well, I'm thrilled to be talking to you and hearing your voice now. You've been tracking Canadians' rage for almost 2 years. How has the recent round of results differed from what you've seen before?
Well, I mean, we'll cut to the chase. It's a record high on the Rage Index. This is something we've been asking for some time. We ask 6 questions: how you feel about government, how you feel about the economy, stories in the news, and we just average together the percentage of people that are angry about all these things. And in the April edition of the Rage Index, we saw a record number of people that were angry about the economy in Canada, record number of people that were angry about government, both federally and provincially. And I think this probably all ties together. If you're upset about the economy, you're looking for someone to blame, and there's lots of blame going around these days.
So who's the angriest? Where are we going to find the most angry Canadians? What province?
Well, Ontario tops the list, and this was fielded before the Leafs went out of the playoffs too, so maybe even angrier today than they were last week when we were actually doing the survey. But yeah, Ontario actually moving into number 1 spot. Alberta has generally been at the top of the list, probably because there's a lot of anger towards the federal government there. But Ontario, we're seeing a lot of economic frustration these days. I think this is driven by things like high housing prices and high grocery prices, which are affecting everybody, but maybe a bit more acute in Ontario than some other places.
I mean, affordability wise, I'd argue BC, Vancouver feels pretty unaffordable. Why isn't Vancouver a little higher given the price of things here? And I'm coming to the audience from Vancouver, the price of housing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it comes down to how people feel themselves, right? And maybe people are more used to some of these factors there. Maybe things feel like they're changing quicker in Ontario. Maybe they're just in a better mood because, I mean, honestly, like whether or not you're feeling angry or happy could depend on the weather, could depend on many other things. And there is this kind of, stigma people have of being a little more laid back on the West Coast. Maybe there's some truth to that. And maybe there just is a bit less frustration there at this time of the year when it's lovely in Vancouver.
It's fair. It is pretty sunny and nice out here, at least today. Alberta used to be the angriest, but you say Ontario took over. Do you have a sense as to exactly why that would have happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say what the specific cause is. Like as I said, it seems like there's a lot more economic frustration bubbling up in Ontario these days. One thing that we did see, speaking of BC, you're asking about here, is a pretty big jump in terms of the level of anger towards the provincial government in BC compared to past waves. This is something that for the past year and a half, anger towards the provincial government's always been at the bottom of the list in BC, and that jumped up 16 points this wave. So, it does seem like there is some growing resentment there that could be problematic given they're heading into an election year for the government there.
Okay, let's try and end this on a positive note if we can. In your conversations with Canadians, do you have a sense as to what they feel good about?
Well, I mean, look, we do ask on all these questions, are you happy or are you angry? And, we just get very few people who say they're happy about government or the economy or things like that. I mean, we did ask about the federal government, about the federal budget on this wave of research. And, people were pretty happy about the actual measures that were in the federal budget. Still pretty angry with the federal government overall. Maybe that hasn't changed things. But, I do think there are things people can look at and say, look, I'm glad someone's doing something on this front when it comes to housing or food programs. So maybe there's still an opportunity there for people to feel those emotions, but they just seem to be happening less often than maybe a couple of years ago.
Dan Arnold, Chief Strategy Officer for Polera, with a smile on his face. Thank you.
Really? Happy about the budget? Who in their right fucking mind would be happy about that budget? We're going to go into debt. What kind of survey did you do? Who'd you ask? Well, I'm really angry about the economy, but I really like the budget. It's like a tick on my ass with a feather. Oh my God. Like, ladies and gentlemen, you can see the bias in that report. Like, just fuck, really. Some people's kids.
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And you're back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 280, Anger and Word Salads. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck. Pardon my expression there, but they had to plug in the budget, right? Because it wouldn't be the CBC unless they had to say something good about the budget, because CBC is getting a slap and tickle for $42 million in bonuses for performance pay. Oh my. Oh, thank you. Thank you. What a goddamn shit show. But you can see why Canadians are angry. You heard me rant already before the video in regards to what pisses me off. What's pissing you off? Cost of living is a joke. Okay? They're taking Canadian history, annihilating it. They would rather sit there and rename streets rather than actually give proper food out to people. Have you seen some of the ridings in Toronto? Some of the sitting MPs have some decent ridings in Toronto, and there are people in lines for food banks. Okay? People in lines for food banks. I can understand a line if there's a meat sale at your local IGA or at Metro or at Loblaws, but there are lines for food banks. Like, how come Mr. Polaris surveyor didn't ask those questions about food insecurity, about the inflation in this country? because elected officials think by reprinting money and giving it all over the place instead of keeping it in the country is a good thing, right? So more word salads, ladies and gentlemen. That's what it is. That's all it is. Anyway, I'm going to cue up Mr. Think When I'm Stoned here. Things I think when I'm stoned. I'm going to cue up this video, and this comes from Jagmeet Singh. Just a few seconds of his blurb, because this whole birth control issue that's the federal government has pushed in the name of pharmacare, birth control and diabetic medication, and this dental plan they keep talking about. There's a lot of dentists that really just don't want to do it because they're not finding they'll get paid properly by doing it. Okay. And this pharmacare thing, what is pharmaceutical about birth control pills? Right? Takes two to tango. You've heard me rant about this before, but things I think of when I'm stoned, I'll let him carry this narrative on. And you decide, ladies and gentlemen, it's quite hilarious what he says. And I'll just cue up the video here for you. But I think you all know, excuse me. I think you all know what's going on, because we are not seeing any proper light in this darkness. We are not seeing anything worth our time here. We're not. We're just seeing garbage. Garbage performance, garbage leadership, and word salads. Okay. The title card here. Look at the silhouette. Whoever made this picture, fantastic on you. But Justin laughing about the fires, and people are still speculating about the whole climate change issue about fires, right? When it's obvious there are people out there setting them. Okay, because where I am here in Alberta, we've had a lot of rain, so we got a lot of moisture. So something is not going to burn as quickly as you'd think. But other parts of the province, it has been pretty dry. All it takes is some kind of activist out there to throw a match down, and voila, he or she's making some kind of point. But I'll cue this up for you, and you decide, ladies and gentlemen. Just some of the BS that he's saying. It's just like, really, all these individuals are getting paid quite a bit of money to sit there and tell you how I got to be this and how you got to be that, and just tolerate it, right? And for what? For what? So what I'll do is I'll cue this up, ladies and gentlemen, and you guys listen and decide and watch by your leisure.
Right now, they're blocking free birth control for women.
The more I hear you speak, Jug, the more I realize you're a worse human than Trudeau. I mean, he's an idiot, but you are a coward. The Conservative Party has absolutely no power whatsoever. They can block nothing. The NDP is the only party that holds any real power at the moment. You're basically the only reason the Liberal Party still exists. You hold them by the balls. You've done absolutely nothing with it. A dental care program, which covers almost nothing and almost no one. Most dentists don't want to participate in, and provinces already had. We have a homelessness crisis, a drug epidemic, tent cities all across the country. Parents, women, can't let their babies touch the ground outside lest they jab themselves with a needle. Communities have to sweep the fields before they let their kids play soccer. Crime's on the rise. Police are telling women to leave their keys by the front door because criminals probably won't kill or grape them. They're probably just there for the car. Single moms across the country are alternating between trying to keep their kids warm and trying to keep them fed. Like, maybe you don't notice it in Ottawa because it's been a festering shithole for years, but communities across Canada, they're seeing it. And your priority is free birth control. Cheaper groceries, but free birth control. Is that the NDP's platform? Feeding Canadian women. Not as important as fucking them. And why is it only free for women, Jug? Like, is it your belief that women are solely responsible for birth control, that men should be able to engage in adult activities while bearing none of the responsibilities that come with engaging in those adult activities? That men should just be able to fuck with impunity, and it's the women's fault if there's unintended consequences? You disgusting sexist piece of shit. You claim to care about women, but you kowtow to a man who has repeatedly bullied, harassed, and impugned the character of multiple good women. The man has an abysmal track record when it comes to his treatment of women, and you are the one who allows it. You literally hold his fate in your hands. You have all the power, and with that, what have you done for women? Other than put them and their children's safety at risk by allowing potentially dangerous predatory men into their spaces, by virtue of simply declaring themselves women. You're no champion of women. You're just Trudeau's bitch. And despite holding all the power in Parliament, that's all you'll ever be.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory, ladies and gentlemen. What has Yagmeet and Justin Trudeau done for women in this country other than pass laws and make things impossible to build because of gender parity? And yet, how many times has Justin been in trouble with the plight of women in his office, in his cabinet? I bet you there's some juicy details about Yagmeet Singh, too. Some of his juicy details, right? More word salads. That's all they are. Word salads, right? You know, things I think of when I'm stoned. What did he say about, you know, when it comes to sexual activity? Takes two to tango, basically, right? So do you honestly think you're going to spend all this time and this money and this effort to help a handful of ladies when you should let women do what the hell they want to do? Period. Woman's body is woman's choice. Man's body, man's choice, right? If a man decides to get intimate with somebody and he's not protected, that's on him and his partner. Regardless of if something's going around or not, or there's an oopsie or an accident, takes two to tango. So that's the thing. You know, it's one of the things I think government should stay the hell out of. But, you know, what do I know, right?
Stay updated and follow Crusty Canuck on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, YouTube, and Podbean. Subscribe today and donate at crustycanuck.ca.
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, you are back to episode 280 of the Crusty Canuck podcast, Anger and Word Salads. I'm your host, Crusty Canuck, and one more reminder, too. If you like and hear what you see, please click like and subscribe. Share this content all over your social media platforms, too. And please take a look at my donation links. Consider donating, please. I am actually at a point right now where I'm looking at my assets, and I really need a hand here. I'm not going to demand money, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to beg. I'm not going to come across as a beggar. But I'm finding more subscribers, and I'm grateful. I am very grateful to people who have downloaded my show from the Podbean app, especially from here in the Tube and on the Rumble and everywhere else you find your podcasts. But I would really enjoy if someone could maybe start donating, please. $1, $2, whatever you can. You know, I'm not expecting thousands upon thousands. Truth is, well, I've mentioned this before. Wife and I are having sometimes trying to get things paid off. We can get them paid off, you know, which is good. And I know a lot of people are hurting out there. But if you can manage to donate something on a monthly basis, that would be really good. That would really help me out a great deal. Like I said, there's links in my description. If you do want to donate, I'm not going to force it. If you do want to, it just help some things out too. I'm also an aspiring screenwriter as well, too, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm trying to get a project on the go for that as we speak. But I'll save that for another time. Anyhow, if you feel like donating, please donating. If you like, you hear what you see, click like, subscribe, share this content all over your social media platforms too. Share it all over the place. Share it to your friends, your neighbors. Get the words out there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get our podcast, let's get Canadian content out in the open so everyone can pick and choose and decide what they like. If they not, whatever. That way we're not censored and treated like absolute garbage because the federal government doesn't like our words. Anyway, carrying on with this episode. So I got another video here from Stephen Guilbeault, Mr. fucking criminal, Mr. goddamn environment minister, Mr. follower, Mr. Go along, get along. And him and another member of the BC NDP cabinet are promoting heat pumps or shit pumps, like they call them. Anyway, you decide. You know as well as I do, that doesn't matter where you're living in the country. Heat pumps will not be as effective as natural gas or wood fire or a regular heat source, because we have always been encouraged every time we have an AC unit not to keep it on it at all times, regardless of how hot it is outside. Just not to cool a place off and turn it off, because it runs your electricity bill through the roof. Now, how do you think heat pumps are going to fare in that? So here's a word salad from Stephen Guilbeault and some lady from the NDP cabinet in BC. Like I said, you guys decide. You're not stupid. You're not morons. My audience, you guys are wonderful. I always give you a round of applause because you guys have stuck me this far. Let's keep it going. But let's start using some common sense, ladies and gentlemen, and start worrying about how we're going to make things happen rather than how they're going to take more from us. So you guys decide and just listen to this BS they're talking about here.
Gilbo here, Minister of Environment and Climate Change, with my friend and colleague Josie Osborne from the BC government. We just made a very cool announcement on our collaboration with the government of British Columbia, and something that will help greatly British Columbians.
We are partnering with the federal government to deliver heat pump rebates to people to cover that cost gap with the cost of installing equipment that both cools your home in the summer, heats your home in the winter. We know just how important it is to reach as many families as we can. So you could qualify for rebates up to $24,000 depending on your household size and your income level. Top-ups for northern residents up to $3,000. That's going to help you save money and save greenhouse gas emissions.
Good example of governments working together to serve British Columbians and Canadians. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, right, pal. Sure. See, more word salads, rebates up to 24 grand. So is that assuming a heat pump's going to cost the average individual 10 grand or more? Huh? Is that what's going to happen? Is it going to be a ridiculous amount to maintain said pump too? What if it breaks down after a month or two? Because every time the government buys you something, it always breaks down pending on contracts. We've seen the shit show with the ArriveCan app. How many subcontractors and subcontractors, and how many people skimmed some millions of the Canadian taxpayer for the sake of that application, right? So what's going to happen with these heat pumps, right? Oh, BC will take them. Oh, sure, of course, because BC loves the green trees and loves freezing their ass off. People in the interior BC beg to differ, but hey, government knows best, right? Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, anger and word salads. That's all we're getting. Mainstream media has promoted this whole survey asking why Canadians are angry. It shows that the media is out of touch with the common people, as well as the BC government out of touch with their own people, and parts of the Alberta government out of touch with their own people, and the federal government out of touch with the country. Okay, so you got leaders who say they're leaders, but they can't lead, and you got people that say they want to help the environment, but they spend too much time worrying about the so-called science when they should be going out and seeing it for themselves. Okay, I'm a firm believer in common sense here. I can understand a heat pump working. Let's say if you lived in central Texas and you get a cold snap in the morning, turn the heat pump on for an hour, warm things up, then you turn it off. Okay? These individuals still don't understand that the majority of the country, most areas of the country, have record temperatures of minus 25 to minus 40 with the wind chill. That's a bit higher. Sometimes you get record temperatures too, because you get the whole polar vortex in there. And then things get all kind of screwy. And the heat pump works on the exact same principles as an AC. It jacks up your power. It's harder on the grid. And we all know what happens in a cold snap and the grid fails. We saw it in northern Texas where people actually died. And we also saw it here in Alberta where people suffered. And then people laughing at Alberta because, oh, your grid failed. Because another premier put in the suggestion where we can have solar panels and wind turbines that will generate all this wonderful heat and electricity to make us love each other even more. And it failed. Anyhow, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Crusty Canuck on this beautiful 14th of May, 2024. I wish nothing but good things for you all out there too. It is getting warmer. It is getting warmer in this area, this part of the province and parts of the country too. So do not forget to hydrate. Good, clean water, get a drink in you and all that. And keep yourselves sharp. Keep your wits about you, all that good stuff. As I mentioned, if you feel like donating, please donate. Click like, subscribe, share this content all over your social media platforms. And if you see this video premiere, give me a thumbs up and give me a like. Give me a comment too. The more comments, the more interest is generated and the more this stuff gets around and helps other Canucks out too. Gives them incentive to create their own videos and get the words out there as well. But do what you can, help you out in these trying times. Always try to find the light in this manufactured darkness, ladies and gentlemen, and always make your light shine so bright. And just for the record, too, I don't care if you're religious. I don't care if you're Jewish. I don't care if you're Muslim. I don't care if you're Christian. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you're agnostic. I don't care if you worship lemon gods. Hell, I'll even make room for Scientologists, too. Just shine your light, shine it well. Just don't force it on anybody else. You know what I mean? Anyway, like I said, I've been Crusty on this beautiful 14th of May, 2024. Do what you can to help you out in these trying times. Give your neighbor a hand. Give yourself a hand. and just do your best to be good to people. And I will have another episode up here for you all this Friday. So stay tuned for that. And like I always say, ladies and gentlemen, humanity and merit wins the day. Take care. And I'll see you Friday. Bye for now.
Hit it, sweetheart. Because I am hard, you will not like me. Yes, sir. There is no racial bigotry here. Here you are all equally worthless.
This has been another episode of the Crusty Canuck podcast. Stay sane and thank you for listening. From Western Canada, this is the Crusty Canuck podcast.
Spank me with your heat pump. Oh, please spank me with that heat pump.